Hi, Misha here, and this will be a very different video for the main Mishaco channel. Originally, this video was just going to be for my personal channel, Misha, but I thought people might find it interesting how I work with a computer, because after putting it off for literally years, I was finally forced to update at the beginning of 2023. So that I would talk about why, how, what's gone on, my life with computers. And you're in luck. I actually found hiding in a closet what is decidedly not a new computer. In fact, it's one I bought nigh on 15 years ago. So we're actually going to see 3 generations of Misha's desktop computers, maybe a laptop or 2 as well. Again, this kind of stuff I mostly do on the personal channel, so if you find it interesting, you might go over there and check it out. Just Misha, and I'll put a link in the description as usual. Also, this is Caesar. He sits on my desk. He's a pen holder. I don't usually buy a lot of stuff like this online, but I thought that was hilarious. Your mileage may vary. If you could, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to help support the channel for the next time my computer blows up and I need a new one, check out the link to the Patreon. And there will probably be an extended version of this video over on the personal channel too, with outtakes or extra commentary. I usually do that. Try to keep things at least with the veneer of professionalism over here. But over there, I don't give a crap. Let's dive in. Also, let's see if YouTube can find a way to demonetize this video. My journey with computers, because I am blind, was a very early one. I mean, Braille was a thing, but it was very expensive to do and time-consuming. You can look into it. Through some, I'll be completely honest, government assistance that my family received, they were able to get me a used, refurbished Apple II, I believe it was an E, in the mid-'80s. So I think it would have been around 85, 86. And so that was my first experience. And you might be thinking, well, an Apple IIe couldn't be accessible. Default, no, but it actually had an extension, a box that I'm sure was a parallel cable or serial, but it was a vocab box. Basically a mono speaker with a dial on it, and it talked like a true robot. Basically like Stephen Hawking's voice, only maybe a generation or 2 earlier. But that was my first, and I used it for a few years, but when I got into upper elementary and junior high school, they had the idea to set me up with a Toshiba laptop. That was my first PC, 386. It was actually quite good, but it had the limitations of a laptop. So I would soon get, probably a Christmas gift, a 486 desktop, and that was my first PC desktop. And I had lots of adventures with it, upgrading it, blowing out the motherboard once, and just learning computers on it that I do talk about more in the personal channel video. But that one started off with DOS and went up to Windows 95, but it really just didn't have the chutzpah to do Windows 98. So as far as the 98 era, it was pretty good to me. I only had really 2 machines that used it. I had a Dell laptop that I picked up when I was moving away from home. That would have been, I remember building it in the spring of 98 on their website. That was the first time I bought a Dell. Would not be the last, even though I've tried to get away from them. Did that laptop, and it lasted about 4 or 5 years total. It was good. Eventually the batteries, it was an early lithium battery system, just pooped out, so you had to, what's the point of a laptop when you have to have it plugged in, right? And I built a machine in 2000 using some school money, and that was my first AMD, and it was cutting edge, bleeding edge tech. It was a 1 gigahertz processor, 128 megs of RAM. It should have performed well, but we ran into cooling issues. That was the first time I really paid attention to cooling. It didn't help that the dorm I was still living in at the time, I wouldn't be for much longer, but it wasn't air conditioned. My dog also overheated, Brandy. R.I.P. But yeah, so that was my 98 systems. It wouldn't be long, though, before I went over to XP, and that's kind of relevant to my story today, because they had to pry XP out of my nearly cold, dead hands. So the 2000s were pretty uneventful for me. I got my first XP system in 2002. That was my first Dell desktop. I got my second Dell laptop around 2005. It was a Latitude, tough book. It was pretty cool, especially because I was traveling around the world at the time. Trust me, airports, even if you're disabled and going through, they're not nice to your stuff. In fact, eventually that's what spelled its demise in 2008. But yeah, I got my first XP desktop in 02, and it lasted until about 09. It didn't just die, but it started to really get weird. And the problem was that's when I was starting Ozark Bear Arms, this business here, and needed a reliable and somewhat quick desktop, but mostly reliable. So that's actually how this old system came to be. I can't believe we still had it. We don't throw much away, though. We're pack rats. So what do we have here? So we, in 2009, starting up Ozark Bear Arms, got this guy from Dell because I needed a stable machine. The previous one was still sort of working okay, but I needed something a little better. And this is actually the first machine I made YouTube videos on, actually for the first nearly 5 years of this channel. And it was a good machine. It ran its life out. It only had one hardware failure. The hard drive pooped out in 2013, but that's no one's fault because it was the old, spinning platter hard drives, and they happened. But to Dell's credit, they sent out a replacement and let us install it ourselves because it was just, slide it in, plug it in, easy peasy. No harm, no foul. A local guy who was Dell certified helped me copy over the data from the kaputted hard drive. He actually, with some setup and trial and error, was able to recover a lot of my data. Although a lot of the early videos are lost, unfortunately. That's actually where I learned to do backups a lot better. External backups, that is. But yeah, I was super happy to find this one in the closet. It's hollow now. I don't remember what it is. I think it was a Pentium Core i3. Nothing flashy. Like I said, still running XP Professional. They gave me the option to use a newer OS. I think it was Vista. Might have been early 7, Windows 7. But even back then, Dell Business recommended the tried and true. But, she's just been in the back of a closet for a long time. But she was salvaged for parts and whatnot a long, long time ago. And we ran her until Windows XP was no longer supported by various websites, including YouTube. And so as time happens, time marches on, we were forced to go to a new system by 2016. I could have tried to upgrade this to Windows 7 Pro, but my upgrade experiences have been... So I just like installing a new fresh install, or if a system's already 5-6 years old, it's time. At this point, thankfully, the cost on a stable business machine is under $1,000. So, using business funds and using it as a business write-off, we upgraded this one. Kept it in the closet for a bit as a backup, just in case, though. So in 2016, as a business expense, I was forced to grab a new system no longer based on Windows XP. And so I got my first Windows 7 Pro machine here. Yeah, in 2015, 2016. I know, a little behind the curve. I'm fine with it. That's this guy. All videos you've seen since then have been edited on this, unless Jay did some early on the first couple of years, and J-Ro has done them the last 4 years or so, unless they need special editing. Still kept the old monitor, because I don't care. Not like I can use it. Usually gets so dusty I have to dust it off before someone can see through it anyway. I went with Dell because of my past experiences, and I don't regret it. This system has been a good one. No part has broken on it. It made it to the finish line without breaking anything. No viruses ended up getting caught on it. Then again, it is a work machine. It's a Intel Core i3, 3.2 gigahertz quad core, 12 gigs of DDR4, I believe, might be late 3 memory, and a terabyte hard drive. I don't remember putting that in. Must have been a good deal at Dell that day. But that served me well. But doing video stuff, especially with newer videos, either being all high def or even 4K, I ended up getting up to 3 external drives, counting the one in this, all 4 I have about 15 terabytes of storage, and of that, over 8 are used up already. And, well, 7, because I made a little oopsie and lost 1 terabyte of data while doing the transfer. We're all human, guys, even those of us doing computers. So this was my system, and I didn't really want to get rid of it, but Google Chrome won't update. YouTube is soon to quit supporting it. The only other kind of side note, back right before the pandemic, I did pick up a new laptop because at the end of 2019, I had plans to start traveling more. So I picked up a new laptop because my last one I had done 15 years ago. Ordered this from Dell Business. It's a good system, but it also taught me a few things. I intentionally didn't make it very powerful because I thought I don't really need much. It's just a 1.6 gigahertz efficiency core, 8 gigs of RAM, and I thought I had a half terabyte hard drive, but it's actually only quarter terabyte, which didn't sound bad to me, coming out of the days when, like I said earlier, my first hard drive was a 220 megabyte. But turns out, with Windows 10 on here, and then I had about 50 gigs of personal data, it's already using up 200 gigabytes of the 250 roughly available. It's insane. And I started getting out of memory errors with the 12 gigabytes on this system. So you can imagine the 8 gigs of memory on this one. It doesn't crash. It's just very slow sometimes to load with my speech. My speech over the years has gotten to be pretty resource intensive. The program itself needs a minimum of 4 gigs of memory, but it really wants 8. And I don't mean total on your system. I mean for it. So on this system, it's only leaving a few gigs for the rest of the OS. Even on this system, doing video editing, yeah, it's a good laptop, but it did teach me, just because I don't game, maybe I shouldn't try to go quite so low. The good news is, it only was about $1,100 new with a good warranty. Still works. I've had it for 3 years now. Probably the battery will start to go goofy soon, although the newer lithium batteries are pretty good. Lost the power cord once. Found it though. Cats. So I don't know what I'll do. Depends how much I end up traveling. It is still the old tough book style, which I really like. I also like the really slim style. But I did get experience with 10 on that, and that actually informed what I would end up doing this month. So this is the new system and setup. This is going to be the Cliff Notes version as much as I can do it for more ramblings personal channel. What I went with and why. Start with the keyboard. I've kind of always wanted a wireless mechanical, and I've always had good luck with Logitech, so I went with this one. It's not high end, but it is about double the price of the old one, and I really like it. It was actually the first component to come in, so I tried it out for a couple of days. We had some snow and ice, delayed some of these parts last week. Still came very quickly. I like the keys. I like the spacing. I like the fact that it has extra F keys over here because, F4, F5, F6 are very useful. Arrow keys, these are very important. The number pad is very important for using a screen reader. Yeah, the only thing that threw me off for a loop is kind of the spacing up here of the F1 and the escape key. When I first got it, I was accidentally going all the way to the corner and hitting F1 instead of escape, but I've trained my fingers pretty quickly. But it kind of reminds me of my old Apple II keyboard a little bit, and old school ones, and I'm hoping it has good long life to it. I can tell you the range is excellent, and it can do either Logitech's own kind of radio frequency or Bluetooth. The old keyboard set came with a wireless mouse. I don't need it, but I do need some mouse just in case someone else, so I'm just using the wired mouse that Dell shipped. It will be fine. Of course, it's laser. Remember the days of the old balls and having to clean lint out. As far as monitor, unfortunately, my old port monitor would no longer work. I mean, I guess I could get an adapter, but it was time. I'd been using it for years and years, and this was inexpensive on Amazon, and I figured if I didn't like it, the wife could use it. This is HDMI. Because of the system, hi Caesar, This is actually a DVI output, and I was kind of sweating it for a minute until I opened up the bag that had the mouse, and luckily Dell provided the DVI to HDMI adapter, and therefore we didn't have to try to go to the store when the ice was melting. So a new monitor, I could care less, honestly, although I do like that it does have built-in speakers, which means if the headphones crap out, I'll hear my speech through there. That's fine. It had to be done. So I've upgraded those components, and I may eventually upgrade headphones too. Something slightly nicer, but I'm either going to have a pair that have extremely good battery life, say 8 to 12 hours, and charge very quickly, or something that's cheap enough like this that I can just buy 2 pair. And these see daily, almost hourly use, so you'd be surprised how well these cheap ones hold up. Quality of sound is fine, but I really just need something that is durable and has good range, so we'll see. I might go by Best Buy. I don't mind buying things like this online, but headphones, much like my sunglasses, I really want to fit them first because I'm kind of picky. And yeah, I'm a over-ear versus on-ear or in-ear. I hate in-ear headphones. I'm not a earbud person. So that's the peripherals. What about the box that Caesar's sitting on? I tried not to go with Dell. I really did. I even considered assembling one with J-Rose help, buying the parts and just putting them together. They're pretty simple. But I was worried about getting compatibility issues, especially between the motherboard, processor, and RAM. That even today can be a little chancy, especially with newer generations of Intel. And I needed it pretty quick. The old computer, the Windows 7 machine, has held up great, but I'm getting messages from Google Chrome saying it can no longer update. YouTube and Gunbroker are giving me messages saying I'm using out-of-date stuff. I was afraid one day I'd wake up and I just could not do my work. So while I didn't mind taking a few weeks at the beginning of 2023, I couldn't wait 6 months. So pre-built seemed to be the way to go. Plus, frankly, they're cheaper. And for my purposes, non-gaming, that's fine. And I looked at pre-builts. J-Rose suggested iBuyPower, which I've heard other people suggest. I've also read that HP is kind of back in the game with some pretty good systems. But even he had to admit eventually that when it comes to business and more workstation-style systems, Dell is still kind of killing it, or at least not really any worse. And I'm familiar with them, and they're available. And despite some things they're doing, like outsourcing to India, that I don't care for, I can't deny the results. Plus, there was a lot of good deals post-Christmas on Amazon to buy them. So after days of sifting through, I picked this one. This is the XPS 8950, replaced the old 8940 chassis. I went with an Intel because better memory management, and that's how my TTS is customized. And I decided to go kind of with last year's because you can get them on a good deal. So this is a 12th gen. I'll even looked at the i9 series, but it seems like that's only really good for gaming over the i7, and there's some cooling issues, and I did not want to go water cooled because my luck with anything plumbing related is terrible. Trust me, if anyone would catch a leak, it would be me. So air cooled it is. It's actually my first system, at least in a long while, with a front fan, and it's got a pretty good fan in the back. As far as the things, so I picked i7 12. I went with the 12700K processor. I need the ones with the integrated graphics. For one, I'm not buying a GPU. For another, it's been said by more than a few reviewers that even with a graphics card, the video editing software still uses the integrated graphics on the Intel chip. So I definitely didn't want a KF or an F version. And I went with the K because I thought it was a little more future-proof and could be overclocked. And it also has better built-in cooling from Dell, bigger fan on it, essentially. I like that. Plus, let's be honest, the standard 700 is rated up to 4.9 gigahertz, and me being an old-school person, that's so close to 5. Let's just go 5, and this is rated at 5. Incidentally, the i9 is only up to 5.2. So this is 12 cores total, 8 and 4 respectively. The efficiency cores are actually good for video editing. That's nice. One thing I really liked about this, it actually has 25 megs of cache on the motherboard. Cache is often overlooked, and I remember back in the 90s people would, but it's good to have cache. It really is. In more ways than one. So it's a 3.6 to 5.0 processor. Good cache on it. Stable. For a non-gaming machine, these were rated quite highly, and I thought it would do well for me. Memory, it was DDR4, DDR5. Back in the past, when DDR5 was really expensive, 4 was the logical choice. Now DDR5 is very inexpensive, at least the same as 4. And since I'm hoping to run this machine up until at least 2030, I thought going with the next gen memory would be the way to go. And it's a little faster too, and has other benefits. Has 4 slots on the motherboard. I knew I didn't want to go 16 gigs. My old one had 12 and it had memory issues. 32 seemed very attractive. In the end though, because it wasn't much more money, I went 64 gigs of DDR5. I don't know how fast I'll run it, because the higher you clock it, the less stable it gets, and stability is more important to me than a split-second faster speed, so I might run it as low as 4,000, or maybe 44 or 48 at most, but no more than that. And the nice thing is I can go to 128 gigs later on if 8K video, for example, is the standard. So that's the basic hardware breakdown. For more on my personal channel, I ramble on. If you can't tell, I do like tech. I'm not a tech head, but having to use computers my entire life, you can't help but kind of like them. As far as peripherals, this has the most important thing in 2023. It still has a DVD CD player. I think it's even a writer. Let's see if I ever use it. But it's there. It doesn't hurt anything. And in fact, it takes up such little space. It does have something I needed, and most computers have, but not all, an SD card reader in the front. Also a jack for headphone microphone. And then it has 4 USB, I believe, which is better than the 2 on my old one. And then it has several more in the back, pretty standard. And you can always buy a hub if you need more than that, but I actually don't have a ton of peripherals, just 2 cameras that I use, a DSLR and then the GoPro. And then, of course, the printer and other stuff. And my old computer was connected to 3 external hard drives. It had 1 terabyte hard drive inside. And then I had, extra terabytes outside. I still will use those external for double storage, but I wanted to go pretty good on here. So, from Dell, it has a 2 terabyte SSD NVMe M2. That's good for a boot drive. 2 terabytes for your programs. But it also has a secondary slot for another NVMe M2 drive, which I plan on filling. Maybe with a secondary drive for video editing clips, where work prints and folders are stored, because it should be pretty fast. But it also had a 2 terabyte old school HHD 7200 RPM, which when I first got this computer, I didn't know if it had, because I opened it up, because I'm me and I have to disassemble everything. There was an open empty bay back here with cables. They were nicely kind of stuck in there, but I couldn't find the hard drive, 3.5-inch hard drive. I even told the wife, and she goes, "How can you lose it in something this size?" I thought maybe they sent me the wrong computer, or someone had janked it out and not replaced it. Things happen. So I was kind of on pins and needles booting this up to see if the secondary hard drive was there, because my plan was to put like shooting clips and cat clips on that drive, so they're not something I need quick access to, but they're there all the time. I can copy them over, boom, bang. Well, luckily, when I booted it up, it was showing the SSD and the HDD, and I didn't know where it was for a while. Then I found that it's actually crammed up here above the DVD drive. They're actually kind of together. That's kind of neat. It's good space management, because they're right there. And that also meant I had a spare bay back here, which I was hoping on, but I wasn't sure. So there had been a Western Digital Red Pro that I'd kind of bookmarked that was on a really good sale. It was 16 terabyte, And since I had the space for it, I grabbed that sucker. And it's should be here soon. I'm going to throw it in. 16 terabytes is pretty much replicating what my external drives give me right now. It'll be stuck in the back as a drive that I don't touch too often. Is a first line backup, and then I'll use the outside external hard drives as kind of second line backup, and also they're portable if I need to transfer some over to Fox or JRO. So I'm going to be running 3 up to maybe 4 storage disks in this, and each one will have a dedicated purpose. As untidy as my desk can be, I do keep my PC very tidy, kind of a holdover from the old school days of limited storage and memory and processor. It learns you things, guys. So that's what I built. Or not built, but kind of picked, because I went through lots of listings. Just as I am with guns, I'm pretty obsessive about anything I buy, and so I pretty much only thought about this for a couple of days, driving my wife and probably JRO nuts, asking them questions and what they thought of this system and that. But I did research it, and the price was good. It was actually cheaper to buy it on Amazon through a store than it was Dell directly, especially being that the 13th gens are out. And it took a little while to get here just because of the ice. Well, I say a little while. It took under a week. I ordered it on a Sunday. I got here on a Friday. But damn it was supposed to be here that Wednesday. Amazon really has spoiled us. So with that, how's it going? How's booting it up going? Are we going to see videos and stuff on it soon? The short answer is seemingly yes. Friday was stressful. I know it's hard for anyone to go to a new computer. But for me, especially with the speech and getting it set up for the speech, it's harder. I mean, first off, when I first boot up a new computer, I can't use it. I've got to have someone help me to get the speech at least installed. From there, I can usually take it, but I'm not used to Windows 11. So that first night, I think my wife was about ready to kill me, because she comes home from work, and I have to have her do this. Well, I don't have to, but I have to because I'm me. Hey, I needed to know if it had that extra hard drive. So we get it stood up, and of course Windows is doing its updates, and it does quit talking a few times. I don't know why. I know once my screen reader did crash, or at least froze, so we had to do it. But that's normal. That's not instability. We were getting things done. I got that on. Then I got my video editing software on. I like VSDC because it works well with my speech. It's got a lot of keyboard commands. Your mileage may vary. I know Adobe Pro is better. But then I uninstalled Microsoft Edge. Yes, you can do that. And yes, Microsoft pitches a fit. It also saves you like 1 gig of used memory and is totally worth it. But Saturday was better. I think I only needed her help 2 or 3 times throughout the whole day. And then I worked on transferring a lot of my files over, video files, project files, music, and just getting it customized, learning about Windows 11, looking at tutorials online. And Sunday, it only quit talking, presumably froze up maybe, or just quit talking once. But I didn't actually have to ask my wife. Before doing that, I thought, turn it on and off. That's or off and on, technically. And it actually worked. And luckily, there's still a power button. It's still tied to just shut the damn thing down. Did that, booted it back up, my pin popped up, and I was back in. So I don't know what happened there, but that's not uncommon. Even the old machine would just sometimes quit reading for no reason that I could tell. So I didn't actually need her help once yesterday, which was a Sunday. So today, Monday, starting a new work week, my employee, helper, friend comes over after he gets off work, usually about 5:30, to help me log out guns, because last week, all the ice, we weren't really able to ship much. We have a lot to ship, and I wasn't planning on using this computer today, but it's gone so smoothly, I think we might give it a try. We can always throw back the old one if we need to. I actually have a desk. Moving it there is why I'm doing this video. But we're going to see, because my bound book software, approved by the ATF, well, speak of the devil, that was the ATF, and they're shutting me down. Apparently it's an order from Biden. Yeah, just messing with you. That was actually the guy from the pharmacy. Again, it's a Monday, so home delivery, and I'm going to be gone tomorrow, so I need to get that done today. Where was I at? Oh yeah, installing the software, got it all set up. One thing that impressed me, I used bound book video editing. It's based on Microsoft Access and Excel, ATF approved software for FFLs. Because it was originally made for XP, it was a little bit of a, not too hard, but you had to change a few things, customize it a bit to work on 7. I figured I had to do that or even more with 11, or maybe go look for a newer version. I don't like upgrading versions if the old one works and is stable. With my speech, that's kind of asking for trouble. But anyway, I thought, let's try it, install it. Installed. So I thought I'd drop in my database. It's just one file, one big file, and it actually read it, no problem. So this was actually easier to install OXP software on than my Windows 7 machine. So we're going to give it a try tonight and see if it actually does. I mean, it read my database and whatnot, so we're going to see if it can write to it tonight and go from there. And I've also tried video editing on it, and I didn't precisely time it, but it's roughly 4 times faster than the old machine. And that's at a higher resolution. I've tried like Ultra HD on it. I haven't tried exporting to 4K or 8K yet, but I will. But so far, it was a lot faster and more responsive on video editing. And I looked at the system resources, and it's doing good with my speech running, with the video software running, and a couple of Google Chrome tabs open, whatnot, It was utilizing 20 to 30% of the processor, and on the memory, it was dropping. That was FedEx. It's that time of day, I guess. Anyway, so everything's going well. The system resources, it was using about 15, maybe up to 20 gigs of memory if I was really pushing it hard for a large video file. I tried to make it, I did make it do an hour-and-a-half long one, which it did it Ultra HD in about the same length of time, hour and a half, 2 hours, which is fine. The thing seems to be good. I am liking Windows 11 Pro more than Windows 10 Pro, and while I'm still more comfy with Windows 7 Pro, just like with it, switching from XP Pro to Windows 7, I'm hoping I will settle in. And so far, 3 days is pretty good for me. I don't like change, and I get very used to keyboard commands and things like that, and if they change, it throws me off. But hopefully, this will future-proof me till the next decade, and hopefully that means we'll start to be able to do better videos, higher quality. I built this more as a 4K rig, and just, good massive storage, just thinking to the future. I hate the technology dates itself, but, that's where it's at, guys. But for more of my feedback, you can check out the personal channel. With that, let's wrap this impromptu video up. Well, the day is winding on, and I need to wrap this up. Let me know what you think of this kind of different video. I just thought, since it was kind of a topical thing, not a whole lot of new guns coming in this past week, and I was focusing on this because it doesn't matter how many new guns I've got if I can't edit videos and upload them to YouTube and answer things. If I don't have a stable computer, that's not going to do well. And it seems like Windows 7's days of even being remotely usable will be over this year, maybe even within the month or two. And the security issues do concern me now that they stopped kind of supporting it. But so far, I'm really pleased. I'm hoping my decision to go with a little bit higher power machine will work out, both in terms of speed now and, longevity, because I don't mind buying it, but I don't want to have to buy a new computer soon. I, as you know, am very much a proponent of buy once, cry once. But yeah, different type of video. But this is a gun channel, so we need at least some gun content. There we go. Seemed appropriate. Even matches the Dell cases. This is one of the Swiss Sig Sauer now imported SG55Os. 21-inch barrel. Biolug. Bipod. Black furniture, which is kind of unique for these. Of course, imported as a pistol. Diopler as Everton Bilcom sights. And something we've been quite famous for. And have appeared in quite a few videos. These are the kind of unfinished ones, and there's always a debate with them. Should you leave them as is. This is not bare metal. It is phosphated metal, like most steel. Or should you paint them? Now, if you do paint them, FYI, don't install your rubber dust covers. These rivets, that needs to be the last thing you do. That's why this one's not riveted yet. So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of like it in the modern all-black phosphated look. I made us riveted on. I don't know. It's funny. These were true whale guns once upon a time, but thanks to San Imports, JDI, they have been, compared to what we used to have, very available. And they're still very rare, but, I mean, compared to what they used to be, and these are genuine guns. I just thought we'd bring up one gun to end the video with. Why not? So, new computer. Time to probably cannibalize this one for the final time, put it in a landfill or museum. Time to refurbish this one and pass it on to someone who can use it. And time to put this one on the desk. I recently just cleaned it, dusted it, made it ready, and see how it does with its first round of guns. Hopefully, I didn't just buy a pro gun control computer. That'd be really bad if computers had politics, wouldn't it? Like I said, I know it's a bit of a different style video, but we do have quite a few new gun things coming up soon. Some with me, some with Fox, and actually a big video on FALs coming with J-Ro and some special guests. So stay tuned for that. Hope everyone is still having a good new year. Hope everyone survived the winter weather. And we will all see you very soon next time.